Episode 134 of the Love in Lebanon podcast focuses on football, family, and finding that sense of community. Craig Terrill is our guest. He played football at Lebanon High School, captured the Old Oaken Bucket while at Purdue. He even played in a Super Bowl. Craig shares experiences from his life, why he and his family felt led to move back home, and of course he shares his Super Bowl prediction as well. Episode 134 starts now.
Welcome to the Love in Lebanon podcast, highlighting all the great things happening in Lebanon, Indiana. Have an idea for an episode? Send an email to loveinlebanon@lebanon.in.gov.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 134 of the Love in Lebanon podcast. I'm Joe LePage, the Community Development Director here with the city. We've got a legend with us on the podcast, a Lebanon legend. Drafted by the National Football League, the NFL, back in 2004 for the Seattle Seahawks. Lebanon legend Craig Terrill here on the pod. Craig, thanks for being here.
You are too kind, Joe. Thank you.
Sorry for the big run-up and the sarcasm. Wanted to get you smiling and kind of feel that the juices going.
I appreciate it.
Well, this is a great time to have you on the podcast. It wasn't, it's kind of ironic and coincidental, but looking at the highlights on Sunday, your Seattle Seahawks with a huge overtime win in the Motor City. Were you watching that game on the edge of your seat?
I was watching along. Yeah, I kind of scan. I enjoy my Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays and every other night that the NFL plays. I just kind of enjoy taking it a little bit at a time and enjoying all the games. But yeah, I think Seattle had, they had a lot of question marks with the Russell Wilson departure, right? Yeah. You lose your franchise quarterback. It's something the Colts understand well, all too well. is your franchise quarterback leaves the team, and where do you do next? So I think they had a lot of question marks, but yeah, Detroit's a legit team this year too as well. So for them to go there, get a win early in the season, I know those early wins are such a momentum builder for the season.
And seeing how Geno Smith responded after week one and kind of his resurgence as a quarterback, do you still have people that you contact and just kind of stay in touch with up in the Pacific Northwest?
I do, yeah. I have a lot of media friends, especially, that have been covering the team since 1976. So they've seen the good years, the really really bad years, and the amazing years. So it's fun to get their take on how the franchise goes up and down and comes around. So much like the Colts, it's a good franchise, right? Mm-hmm. It's a team that is involved in the community. They want to put a good product on the team. There's surprisingly NFL teams that they're a little cheaper. They don't care. They don't go after the best guys in free agency and try to give the fans what they're paying for. But it's a great franchise in that way. So they're going to be competitive.
Absolutely. And do you look at it and watch those highlights and kind of harken back to what it was like when that was your life, playing defensive line?
I do, yeah. And it seems like it's otherworldly, honestly. I look at those guys now, I'm like, I can't even imagine, one hit like that, and I don't know that I would get up ever again. But that's the beauty of youth, right? And at that moment, I could just play with reckless abandon, and it's cool to see those guys. Professional sports is a cool thing because you're literally seeing the best people in the world at that specific sport competing against each other, and it's unpredictable. That's what makes it so much fun to watch every week.
Mm-hmm. Everybody, we're talking with Craig Terrill, played in the NFL, played at Purdue. We'll talk about that in just a second. Also played at Lebanon High School. If you want to get kind of deeper in the weeds to Craig's story and what brought him back to Lebanon with his family, we've got a Lebanon Legends video we shot a couple years ago. It's on our YouTube channel and on our public access channel as well. You can check that out and learn more about Craig's life. But you played at a high level. Looking at your stats and kind of been stalking on Wikipedia, have it up here. Just the number of tackles and sacks and even a touchdown. There's video on there of you scoring and doing your guitar thing at the end. What is it like to play in the National Football League? All those people, all the everybody watching and cheering for you.
Yeah, it's definitely a dream come true. And you kind of get thrust into that all of a sudden, right? You're just you're a high school player, and then you get opportunities to go play at the next level in college, and then, that's mind blowing, right? Somebody's going to pay for your college to go play a sport. And then, I was lucky enough at Purdue to be surrounded with guys who were getting drafted to the NFL, and I think that benefited me a lot. I played with Drew Brees for my first 2 seasons, so anytime.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, he did okay. He had a great coach there in Joe Tiller, and those guys who went on to play in the NFL, scouts were looking at them, and then by that, their exposure, I was also getting seen on film and stuff. So it gave me a chance to get a foot in the door in the NFL and to get drafted in the 6th round. And then, it's just make the most of your opportunity, right? That's you step onto that seam, and some guys never touch the field, and some guys are practice squad, and some guys get cut day one, but, they were still on the team. It's the dream is really wide for, some guys play 20 years somehow, I was blessed in so many ways to get to play 7 years and be part of a Super Bowl team. Yeah. And some years we didn't even make the playoffs, but it was still like, this is amazing. I'm playing in the NFL.
Yeah, I buried the lead that you actually got to play in a Super Bowl. So that at the pinnacle, the peak of performance in the National Football League, you talk about those good Seattle teams. That was you.
Right.
You're right there with it.
Yeah, I was in the 2005 Super Bowl. A lot of people in town will say, "Let me see your Super Bowl ring." I'm like, well
I got to play in a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I do have the runner-up Super Bowl ring, which I'm still it's still so cool to have experienced that. But thankfully the franchise did go on afterwards. I was already retired, but they won a Super Bowl. It went to back-to-back Super Bowls and won one. But yeah, we were in the first Seattle Super Bowl and way back in 2005. But it was cool. It was my second year in the league, so I was still like a little like just trying to catch up, like what's going on. And then all of a sudden, as a team, we just go on a streak. Like start the season didn't start great. I think we started 2-2, and then didn't lose another game up until the Super Bowl. So it was a fun run. It was a fun way to see how a group of guys come together in that situation and buy into a program, and then the ceiling keeps going up.
I'm guessing you still miss it.
Yeah, I mean, I miss a lot of parts. Like I said,
parts, yeah.
The getting crushed part, the kickoff return. I was
miss that so much.
I was they used to do a thing called the wedge where I was in all 7 years I got lucky enough to be on that wedge. It was the back line of guys. It was always linemen, and we'd we'd wait for the ball to be kicked and hope they didn't kick it to one of us. That was but then just go full head on into the guy running down the field at full speed. So that part was not so much fun, but it was part of the game, and it was what they asked me to do. So, but just the teammates, the game day experience, right? Anybody who's been to a Colts game here, like that's energy is so good, or even a collegiate game, like. You get that many people in one space and excited about that. It's pretty cool.
And if we can kind of talk about what brought you back to Lebanon, because you're in the Pacific Northwest, you just retired, you got into the broadcasting field a bit, and oh, by the way, you got a band that's pretty successful. You can hear some of Craig's music, and if you search up the old iTunes, you can hear you and your band. What kind of tugged you back here to the Lebanon area?
Yeah, that's a great question. My wife Rachel and I discuss this often because, like you said, like I exited football. I went into working for the radio team on the game day experience with the Seahawks and really enjoyed that. My wife had a great teaching job. We had 2 kids at the time, and I think we were actually just about to have our 3rd kid, Journey, Josie, and Juliet. I told them I'd give them a podcast shout out.
Because they'll be listening. They'll be going,
exactly.
Yeah. Don't know.
So, but we were prayerful about that, and just like, we felt this pull to come back home despite everything seemed to be going well where we were. So, but then every time we come here to visit, it's like, the family's right here. All the people we grew up with are here. I think there's a unique thing coming back to your hometown because I've felt so much support here through the years. And I think when you're an NFL player in a city, like the fans love you. And then when you're done,
Craig who? What? No, it's some guy.
It
Wait,
is.
Did
And
you?
I'm not, and not in a way of like I want the fans to love me by any means, but the people who you grew up with, like those are the people who know you. Like people loved Andrew Luck here, but you don't see a lot of Andrew Luck jerseys being worn anymore, right? He moved on to something else. And I think we just wanted to have that, that close personal experience with the people we were growing up with. And we found it every time we came back here. So being close to family, having a church to go to, having, friends that I grew up with, went to school with, that I'm still hanging out with now. I think those were the reasons that, we were excited to move back.
Was there a handful of things that kind of, I remember growing up in Lebanon, that's one of the things I want my 3 kiddos, the 3 J's, to be able to experience also?
Yeah, just, just having that small town experience where, they're riding their bikes to town. Like, that's not something you do in Seattle, right? Like but, my kids will ride up to the square, ride to the park. We'll all, duck in and grab our donuts in the morning at Titus, and just things that I did, with my parents growing up, were things I wanted them to experience. And they love it here. I tell them, we'll go and travel to Seattle sometimes and other cities, and they'll see the world, and they're like, man, we love it at home. That's the place we love to be.
From growing up in Lebanon, everybody, we're talking with Craig Terrill, played here in Lebanon, played at Purdue, played at Seattle, came back to Lebanon, raising the family. Growing up, when and how much did football kind of resonate with you, and when did that become kind of something that you could maybe see yourself doing long-term or at a high level? Was it early in life, or was it later on? You mentioned being able to be around quality people, good people, skilled people, and having that, that Terrill kid's a pretty solid player also. Let's give him a look, that type of thing. When was that?
I think identity as a football player kind of popped up in my head out at Abner Longley Park and playing for the Boone County Youth Football League. Honestly, I went out there. My older brother Jason played football. My older brother Troy played basketball. So they're both very athletic in our family, and it was a part. We were playing backyard football growing up all the time. But putting the pads on for the first time in youth football, I for some reason just tackled people really well, right? It was a gift that I had. So it's not as helpful now. I'm not tackling anybody anymore. But right away I saw that as like, I enjoy doing this. And then I went on a run of just having amazing coaches in my life. So I think that was such a big part, through middle school, through high school. Lance Scheib was my coach. He was a teacher here at the high school and the football coach. And Tim Bless was another coach who, kind of saw something in me and got me in the weight room and said, work at this. And then I kind of remember like one of the coaches telling me like, hey, you can get your school paid for. Like, and I was like, really?
What?
And
what's that?
Yeah. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to put everything I can into this. And then, similarly, when going to Purdue, I had, Joe Tiller's staff, and he obviously struck gold with finding Drew Brees, and then the program just took off from there. We played in a Rose Bowl, went to 5 consecutive bowls when I was there, and they continued to go to bowl games after that. I think they had a really great streak nationally as a bowl team. But, it was just coaches who were knowledgeable, who cared, and that was pivotal to me making it, that leadership.
And then being able to get drafted, what was it like to have your name called? It was, looking at Wikipedia again, round 6.
Yeah.
And what was that whole experience like to be able to, wait, not only did I get school paid for, I can do this, like as a living, I can do this and make some cash on it too? Yeah,
and that was my dream, honestly. That was my thing that I wanted to do from when I was on the Lions team in the youth football league.
How ironic that we're talking after Seattle beats Detroit.
That's how we've come full circle.
Bring it back around. That's what we do.
But I was a Lion, and all the coaches out there were motivating, exciting, and just growing up with football around all the time was a big key for me.
And everybody, we're talking with Craig Terrill, coming back to Lebanon from Seattle after growing up in Lebanon. Kids like Lebanon okay? Is it home for them? Is it you and Rachel, your wife, think, that this was the right decision, or are you, are there moments of...
No, it's amazing.
Yeah.
We love it here. We love the people that pour into our kids. We love... just the people that I grew up with that I get to see, on a weekly basis now, go to church with, it's a peaceful place to live, and I love that. Having lived in a few different spots, it's some chaotic cities, and Lebanon is a place where people are friendly. People are looking out for each other. I love that. I think my great-grandfather lived in Lebanon, so we're long generational family here. I think that's a cool thing. You guys were cool enough to put me up on one of the banners on the square.
Yeah.
And it was that was a cool experience just to see that. And then, my grandpa would talk about like how they would go up there when they were teenagers in the summertime and just sit and watch cars go by. That was that was the entertainment for the time. But it was cool that it was right in that same space that then I got represented for the city. So, but that was his memory of like, this is a great place to live. We go up here, we sit together as a community and hang out, and we just see where the cars are going. So,
well, as you looked at that picture on the banner, and you look at Craig's pictures when you played, 6'3", 296 at the time. That is not your dimensions now. Height, yes. LB is not so much. And what is it like to go to make that kind of transition? And you see it a lot. Jeff Saturday, everybody, you've probably seen Jeff Saturday back when he played with the Colts, and then now all that weight training regimen, that weight gaining regimen. Yeah. How is that now different in being able to kind of get back to life as being out of the league and not a D lineman?
Yeah, it's all calories, Joe. Unfortunately, is the goal when you're an NFL lineman, especially. The skill guys don't have it rough. Like they have to stay in like the best shape of their life, and the linemen are like, you need to weigh as much as humanly possible. So
the third helping. Let's go forward. Let's go
fourth. 2 breakfasts, all that. So and bringing an abrupt halt to that when you're done playing is a difficult thing. But I've seen guys go the other direction too. No. So I wanted to have the longest lifespan, be as healthy as I could for my kids and grandkids and further down the line. So,
and that's kind of been this part in this where you're at in life. This part of your career is the health and fitness and being able to kind of help athletes, young athletes, and older ones, more seasoned ones, reach their goals. And that's kind of something. Is it you strategically went after that kind of health, fitness, agility with athletes, or is it something that you just kind of fell into?
Yeah, I think I just kind of fell into that from, I was coached so well growing up. So in my mind, I'm like, I have this information. I have this knowledge of the steps that I took to be a professional football player. So we have an awesome group of athletes in Lebanon, boys and girls, and some are playing the collegiate level, some are still at the high school level and will be there, and some, you don't know what their ceiling will be. They could be playing professional sports soon. So I think as kids started coming to me and just like, what advice can you give me, right? Mm-hmm. That's an awesome question, and I love answering that. Like, well, first off, are you doing well in school, right? That's always the first thing that kids are usually like, but I had teachers that told me that they had NFL scouts that reached out to them. Like, what was Craig like in the 5th grade? Like, what was Craig like in middle school?
Way.
Yeah. Like that's, they put a lot of investment into each guy that they're drafting. So they go that far back in your life to look at like, what was he like as a student his freshman year in high school? So that's and to say that to a freshman today, they're like, oh man, I gotta, get on it and pay attention. And, that's part of being a student athlete, right? So the work that they're putting in the classroom then can also pay off to be on the football field, the basketball court, or whatever sport they choose. But when they come to me and ask me, like, what can I do to be faster? What can I do to, eat better? What can I do to stand out? And, it's those little details that really show up. If you have the magic wand of just being gifted genetically from a DNA standpoint, that's a great first step. And then, but all the other things that you can do to build yourself up, being a step faster than everybody else in the sport that you're playing, that's the kind of stuff information I like to try to share with those kids.
And how much joy does that bring you? I don't want to name drop too much, but there was a gentleman that came through Lebanon in the last couple of years who's now at IU playing, and you really helped him realize that goal of playing in college and playing at a high level. How much joy and fulfillment does that bring you to be able to help those young people be able to kind of be there. You talked about great coaches and things growing up, being one of those mentors, those coaches in their lives to be able to help them realize a dream. Who knows?
Yeah, it's so cool. It's so cool to see, a young high school kid who wants that, right? They're driven for it. And I've had 2 nephews that have gone to play college football, and, one is playing right now. And just see them put into action, like the advice that I can give them, is really cool to see them achieve their dream, right? And hopefully those guys will put on an NFL helmet one day soon, and we get to watch them.
Greater legacy for that, or for the NFL stuff? Is there a kind of a all of it in between?
When I think of like the people who impacted my life, it was the coaches, right?
Yeah.
Coaches and teachers, and those are the people who saw something in me. So I think if I can be that for somebody else, that's a much better legacy. So, and that's what I want for my kids, right? Someone speaking into their life and building them up so they can achieve what they would want.
Yeah, and some are on the great path now. I mean, one of the kids has her own band.
Yes.
It was back to the 50s, and if she's listening, then you can plug it. I mean, they were rocking it out.
Absolutely. Journey Terrill and Jet and Bowden, they got a rocking band, and I told them I'd give them a shout out. So you can find them on the social media, I'm sure, and see where they're playing.
Here with Father of the Year, Craig Terrill, everybody. Here on the podcast. I'll get you out the door, but I would be fired as a podcast host if I didn't ask a former NFL guy what you've seen so far this season through a couple weeks of play, and maybe giving us a Super Bowl prediction. Not going to hold you to anything, and not going to go to any riverboats or anything like that and place anything, put anything down. But what have you seen so far? Who do you like?
Well, I would think on the NFC side, I feel like the Cowboys right now. We're early in the year, and Dan Quinn was actually he's their defensive coordinator. He was my defensive line coach in Seattle, and he's an exceptional coach, and he's a defensive genius. So I feel like if you have that strong defense, that's the key, right? Anybody can play offense, right?
So there's like an adage. There's like an offense wins some games, but the defense,
exactly. So right now I'd say the Cowboys on the NFC side, and then probably the Chiefs. Honestly, they're right now. There's so much up in the air. So, but the Chiefs are still intact as a team and going to be difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
So there's my prediction.
Pat Mahomes and Mr. Taylor Swift, are they going to be tough to deal with?
Exactly. So Cowboys, Chiefs.
There you go, everybody. Craig, thanks for coming in. Thanks for being on the podcast. We really appreciate it. And thanks for coming back to Lebanon and pouring back into those of us who didn't know you back then, but now are better for knowing you now.
It's my pleasure. I'm grateful every day I wake up here, and that I get to raise my family here, and glad to be a part of this community.
Awesome. Greg, thank you again, and thank you everybody for listening to this episode of the Love in Lebanon podcast. Again, if you want to hear more about Craig's story, see some of the highlights, some interviews talking about Lebanon. We've even got part of his band song kind of plays as a music bed in the video. You can go over to YouTube and just search up Craig Terrill, and it's right there for the Lebanon Legends segment we did with Craig. Thank you again for listening to this episode. More episodes are coming your way soon. Take care, everybody.